Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football fans of all ages. This is Tim May along with
Bill Rabinowitz.
Bill. Here we are. We're back in the swing. Another highly anticipated podcast by you and myself. And I'm not sure I used the correct diction there, if you know what I'm saying. But Ohio State opened spring practice today here in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, the indoor field. And the Leo Yasinoff field, as a matter of fact, as I look over my shoulder and correct myself. And my opinion, I thought it was a very up-tempo. We got to watch the first hour of practice. I thought it was a very up-tempo, high-spirited affair.
Yeah, what we got to see were a lot of deep passes, and they're intent on fixing that part of the offense because obviously last year, clearly, that was probably the biggest weakness on the team. They just couldn't threaten anybody downfield. So, it's day one of spring practice. You're not going to make too much of it, but you can at least tell that they're going to make an emphasis of it.
Well, I'm going to write about it in the paper tomorrow. And you've got your stuff you're writing about, but I am going to write about, there is a different tenor to this practice, even compared to a year ago when they were replacing 16 starters. They're not replacing nearly that many this year, but they definitely want more out of the offense than they got a year ago. And, of course, we got to see Kevin Wilson, the new offensive coordinator, former head coach at Indiana. We got to see him operate for a little while for the first time. Ryan Day, the new quarterbacks coach. And, of course, over on the defensive side, Bill Davis is now tutoring the linebackers with Greg Schiano, the defensive coordinator, kind of running the show for now. As Urban Meyer said, he may make up his mind about a co-defensive coordinator, if that's what you want to call it, or something like that, as the spring goes on, or after he evaluates things after the spring. But as we know, Luke Fickell has moved on to the University of Cincinnati, so there's almost more changes in the coaching staff, personnel-wise, than there is on the football team.
Yeah, I think Luke Fickell's absence is huge because he's been here forever. He's been here since 2002, right?
I covered him as a player way back when, back in the mid-'90s.
So, I think that's a major void. Everything I've heard about Bill Davis is very positive. He's an NFL coach. Obviously, Kevin Wilson comes in with a reputation that's well-deserved as an offensive coach. Just look at what he's done. If you can succeed at Indiana offensively with the talent they have, and, they have some good talent, but it's not Ohio State talent, it kind of excites you to think what he can do with 4- and 5-star guys, which is what he had at Oklahoma and had a record-setting offense back there. So it'll be interesting to see. But having the key word, as Urban Meyer said, was mesh, trying to get, enhance, not change. But if things don't improve, then change will be what they have to do.
Yeah, enhance, evolve, or all words that are used, they do mean change to a certain extent. They got beat 31-0 the last time we saw Ohio State play. They didn't score a point offensively. Definitely in the passing game area of things had to change. I saw influences of Kevin Wilson already in just the few plays we got to watch. A lot of intricate little crossing routes where guys were cutting under guys, scissor routes, things like that, which you're going to see more of as this year goes on. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, just maybe use the wheel route a little more, things like that. There are all kinds of ways to get guys open. But what I saw that stood out to me more than maybe some changes schematically was Benjamin Victor really asserting himself at wide receiver, just like he did maybe at the end of the year last year. Eric Glover-Williams has moved over from defensive back. He basically was a special teams performer last year, but has moved over to defensive or wide receiver now. Flashing big-time playmaking ability there and some of those things. Paris Campbell making some catches, but there just seemed to be a little more zip, as I said, to Urban Meyer in the wide receiver core.
Yeah, I think so. KJ Hill's another one. I think KJ Hill's poised for, he had a bit of a breakout last year, but obviously just kind of in a reduced role. I think he's a guy that they're really counting on. I think you mentioned Austin Mack. They've got a bunch of guys that, we've been waiting for 3 years to see them break through, and they haven't. Terry McLaurin.
Well, I think they're moving on from the guys you've been waiting for 3 years. James Clark obviously is graduating early and leaving, and Terry McLaurin is going to be a big time for him. I just mentioned Eric Glover-Williams as he walks past us now, flashing to the crowd here, and those are the kind of guys now that they want to see. Get the ball in their hands. What can they do?
Yeah, Johnny Dixon's back for one last try to hopefully those knees will cooperate and let him be a contributor. They've recruited these guys at a level you think they should have produced, and they haven't. So that's going to be huge. I think it is the breaking point. They're either going to show it this spring or they're not.
Yeah, and then we got a little guest here, Joshua Perry. Josh,
you like to join our podcast for a second?
I'll join for a second.
Hey, what was your? Did you get to watch any of the practice today? What was your impression?
Guys were going hard. I think that's the first day. All they care about is going hard. You can make mistakes, but you got to do it full speed.
What do you think about Chris Worley at that middle linebacker, at least to begin with? What do you think about that little lineup there?
I like Chris at middle linebacker. I think the thing he brings there is leadership, and that's what they're looking for, a vocal guy, kind of to take the reins that Raekwon had back there and just run the show a little bit.
Hey, he obviously missed almost all of last year. You were with him here. What are your impressions of him?
Yeah, he looks good. I mean, physically he's stacked, and then you just watch him run around out there, and I think the confidence level for him is also something that's had a little bit of an uptick, so we're excited about that.
Before you go, you did take my advice, right? Rent, don't own. No, I'm just joking. Last year, and that turned out to be pretty good. Have you found a place in Los Angeles yet?
No, I'm going to take my time on that. It's a little expensive living out there, so the longer I can hold off on signing a lease, I think the better. But, when I was out there for the Lot of Impact, I made a couple of connections, and one was a real estate connection, so I'll go through there to look for an apartment, so it'll all be good.
It's like he's going to be living Costa Mesa, maybe.
Yeah. And Joshua, obviously he plays for the Chargers, who moved from San Diego to L.A. What's it going to be like to play in a stadium that's 1/3 the size of the Horseshoe?
Hopefully we get sellouts, sell out the stadium and it'll all be good. So we'll put on a show in there for sure.
I was going to say, Ohio State practiced there a long time ago for the Rose Bowl. I don't think you were with that team. Yeah, exactly. But you'll have fun, man.
Oh, yeah.
Joshua, always a pleasure to see you, my man.
Hey, appreciate you having me.
Thanks, Joshua.
Yeah, man.
Thanks.
Yep.
Tell your brother I said hi, too.
We always get the best cameos here.
Yeah. But he made a good point though about the linebacker core. You're only losing one guy. Well, that's Raekwon McMillan, who's probably going to be drafted top 3 rounds, maybe top 2 for sure, and put on a pretty good show at the combine. From a running standpoint and a bench pressing standpoint. You never know how the chemistry is going to work until you put the chemistry set together. Chris Worley moving into the middle now, I think that makes a lot of sense from a lot of reasons. He knows the defense. He can get guys lined up, etc. Dante Booker, as you pointed out, I mean, just when he was getting going last year, he was sidelined and had to miss almost the entire season with an injury. There's a guy that won a starting job a year ago. So really, you've got 3 guys at linebacker, including Jerome Baker, who are starters or were named starters.
Right, and I think middle linebacker spot fits Chris Worley really well, in particular because of his vocal leadership. You need a guy to run the show. He embraces that. I would assume he'll be a captain. I think that's a perfect fit for him. And they have so much talent there also. Baron Browning, one of these 5-star freshmen, is going to push for playing time. You got all these guys been waiting in the wings, the tough Borlands and guys like that are going to be pushing. So I think the linebackers will be interesting. Obviously, the key for this season is going to be defensively is going to be the defensive backs and who emerges.
And I was on a radio show the other night, and the guy says, "Well, they're replacing 3 stars in the defensive secondary." I said, they did the same thing a year ago. Right. Two of them were safeties, and one was a cornerback. This year, it's both cornerbacks, which is pretty tough. I mean, when you consider the talent level of Gary and Conley and Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, Lattimore's, wow. You'd like to have 10% of his future based on the way things are projecting for him. But Urban Meyer. I'm not going to call it rare because he occasionally says good things about freshmen, but he was very impressed by the 4 freshmen or the 4 new guys that were out there at cornerback, including a guy that once signed with Alabama 2 years ago, Kendall Sheffield, a junior college transfer from Texas now, who was out there in first practice, but he also likes Jeffrey Okudah and Sean Wade. I mean, those guys, and Marcus Williamson. He likes all of those guys.
Yeah, they're 5-star guys. And let's face it, Ohio State, to a large degree, has become a 3-year program. They expect these guys to turn pro after their junior year, and that's why they have no intention of redshirting these guys, because why redshirt them if they're going to be leaving anyway? So,
especially 4 and 5 stars.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's the plan, and that's part of the recruiting pitch is look, you don't have to wait 3 years to play. We hope you're gone in 3 years. Yeah. If you do what you're supposed to do and win the competition battles for your position, then go to the NFL.
Well, as I was talking with Kerry Combs a couple of weeks ago, just off the cuff, and we're talking about replacing both of those stars at cornerback, and he said, well, you know what, really, Denzel Ward had as many reps as the other 2 guys did. He feels like he is a returning starter. The interesting spot to watch is that other side now. Damon Arnett, I think, took the field first with the defense there, but these freshmen are really going to give it a shot. And as we watched last year, it evolved into they played 3 cornerbacks at the same time. They moved Gary and Conley into taking the best guy out of the slot. It was a very good ploy by them as the season progressed, and you could see that happening again, maybe using one of those cornerbacks again as a nickel as opposed to a quasi safety in the nickel spot. But the interesting thing is obviously they're losing one safety, but a guy I had my eye on last year, if he'd had more of a maybe opening, Malik Hooker didn't give anybody an opening, but Jordan Fuller flashed some last year. I think they really like him in that other safety spot along with Damon Webb.
And the other one, don't forget about, is Eric Smith, who's had a star-crossed career in terms of injuries, but he and Lattimore came in together, Glenville guys, and some people liked Smith as much or more than Lattimore. Obviously, Lattimore had a breakthrough year. It was tremendous last year. Smith hasn't really had a chance because of injuries, but if he can tap into that ability and stay healthy, he could be a guy too.
Yeah, we'll be back as this progresses. We'll probably give one of these once a week during the spring, except maybe next week Ohio State's going to be off, so we won't be for that. But we'll tell you as much as we know as things are progressing. But for example, Demetrius Knox, I think, went out and took the first rep at right guard in place of Billy Price, who's now moved down into center, the one spot they're replacing on the offensive line. Of course, Pat Elflein, Remington Award winner, is now getting ready for the NFL draft, and but there'll be plenty to talk about. I mean, including, in my opinion, one of the key battles of this spring going into next season is who's going to emerge, and you probably won't see this till preseason camp, as that backup quarterback, because no matter what, J.T. Barrett's going to be gone next year, it does appear. And whoever the backup is, kind of like being vice president, I mean, you've got a heck of a shot at being the guy, when in fact, as I pointed out, that I've never seen 4 quarterbacks of this caliber on the same Ohio State team. I've seen them come and go, but with J.T. Barrett, the Silver Football Award winner from last year from the Big Ten, backed up by Joe Burrow and Dwayne Haskins Jr., and then followed by Tate Martell, in essence, if you want to, for want of another word, the Heisman Trophy winning player from high school last year in the nation. Matter of fact, he's getting a big award at the end of this week. Our friend Jerry Emmig's going to be going with him to Atlantic City to accept that award from the Maxwell Club. But it's going to be interesting, that backup quarterback, because as Urban Meyer even said in the press conference today, Tate Martell thinks he's going to play.
They all think they're going to play. They better all think they're going to play. Yeah, Tate Martell.
When a guy's 43-0 as a high school player and against the competition he played against, he probably feels pretty confident.
On signing day, when Martell was one of the players they brought out, and he said, look, I have every intention of playing. If I'm the best guy, I ought to play. And so I'm sure Dwayne Haskins feels that way. I'm sure Joe Burrow feels that way. You have to. If you're the quarterback and you don't feel that way, you shouldn't be playing.
Exactly. Well, we'll be back to talk about that and a lot of other things as the spring progresses. But until then, this is Tim May along with
Bill Rabinowitz. Thanks for watching.